going to show a video presentation on respiratory acidosis and respiratory alkalosis. Certain diseases can lead to these conditions.
Here's a video presentation on respiratory acidosis.
Today I want to talk about respiratory acidosis. You see, respiratory acidosis, basically it's increase in PCO2 in the blood, that is hypercapnia. That means carbon dioxide has increased, PCO2 has increased, and it always happens due to decreased ventilation or suppression of respiration. So let us first define respiratory acidosis. It is the elevated PCO2 more than 45 mmHg with a decrease in pH below 7.36. So those two numbers are important. More than 45 mmHg of CO2 and less than 7.36. Now it's very important to see what are the causes for this problem. You see, as I said, think about every condition that suppresses the respiration and that suppresses the ventilation. For example, sedative hyperdose, narcotic hyperdose, and alcoholism, cardiac arrest, paralysis of respiratory muscles, and when you use anticholinergics, which causes respiratory paralysis, anesthetics that causes respiratory paralysis, sometimes brainstem or high spinal cord infections because they suppress the respiratory centers. Sometimes even things like Guillain-Barré causes, the syndrome causes this respiratory paralysis. Myasthenia gravis, Lou Gehrig's, that is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, poliomyelitis, botulism, tetanus, and sometimes even muscular dystrophy, and sometimes myopathy of respiratory muscles. So these are the things that are muscular problems that cause respiratory depression. And hypokalemic myopathy, when potassium level goes down, and these people develop these respiratory muscle paralysis. And familial periodic paralysis, that's another condition that causes this problem. And sometimes primary hypoventilation in the brain that suppresses the respiration. And also think about diaphragmatic muscle paralysis. When the diaphragmatic, the phrenic nerve paralysis happens, respiration is depressed. And the tracheal edema or stenosis, obstructive sleep apnea. What happens in obstructive sleep apnea? The respiration is depressed and CO2 retention happens. Sometimes foreign body aspiration, it decreases the respiratory output of CO2. Sometimes neoplasms in trachea, and sometimes the fluids and bronchospasm. So these are the conditions that cause these problems. And also think about lung infections like pneumonia, and conditions like pulmonary edema when the respiratory output and the overall respiratory activity of the lungs decreases. Pulmonary embolism, when the blood clots, just desaturates the major areas of the lungs. And so these are the things. And think about the chest wall trauma, flail chest. So these are the things you should always remember when you think about respiratory acidosis. Whichever it is, whatever it is that causes respiratory suppression.
God, you're so hot. It's been 3 days since the onset of your fever. We really need to go to the hospital.
I don't know what happened.
You're so hot. Oh my God, you're so hot.
Wait.
It's been 3 days since you have your fever. You really need to see a medical.
Respiratory alkalosis.
I want to talk a few minutes about respiratory alkalosis. You see, respiratory alkalosis, basically, you can remember this by one word, that is hypocapnia, that is the decrease in PCO2. Respiratory alkalosis, it occurs whenever we develop hyperventilation. When we hyperventilate, the carbon dioxide goes out, and that decreases the PCO2 in the blood, resulting in an alkalotic condition. That means the pH increases. There are other conditions like bacterial sepsis and cirrhosis, and also pregnancy, because in pregnancy, progesterone stimulates the respiratory center, and as what happens is the PCO2, it decreases and results in respiratory alkalosis. So those are the basic conditions. And sometimes cerebral vasoconstriction happens as a result of this. And cerebral vasoconstriction results in lightheadedness, dizziness, and irritability, that kind of symptoms. Now, hypoxia and decreased inspired oxygen tension and high altitude, they can also cause respiratory alkalosis. And conditions.
Okay, mister, what happened? What happened?
I'm just having trouble in breathing now.
What did you do?
I was jogging the park, then suddenly it's difficult to breathe.
Okay, Miss Said, can you please bring Mr. Villania to the laboratory to run further tests and confirm the condition that he had? Okay.
So that's it. Hope our presentation provided you additional information about respiratory alkalosis and respiratory acidosis.
And we also hope that you have learned how to manage these certain conditions before.
Yes, it is also important to stay health conscious and healthy.
So that's it for our presentation today, and thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bluetooth.